All right, let's go. Day one of training camp for the Houston Texans is in the book. I'm Cody Stoots. Thanks for joining the YouTube live today. Cody Stoots of Houston Football. That's right, Houston Football, the new website that I've got. You can find it at www.houfootball.com. It's a subscription site where you can subscribe and you'll get an email with all the latest and the updates. Like, for instance, today, people got the 11 observations from day one of training camp. If you don't like to read, we'll have the video content for you here as well. On the live this evening, we're going to get to a number of things. Davis Mills versus CJ Stroud, day one. Titus Howard's big payday, what it means for this offensive line. We're going to talk about the wide receivers, the super secondary, so much more from today's live and what we have planned. Thank you for watching, and I would appreciate a little subscribe, a little like, share with your friends, tell your friends. And oh, by the way, Q&A at the end, okay? We'll get your comments in throughout the show as well. It is a fantastic time to be a fan of the Houston Texans. The energy and excitement that I had getting ready to cover this training camp was incredible. I was so excited to get out to NRG Stadium today, and I knew Nick Caserio was going to be talking before practice. Obviously, then they'd have practice, and then D'Amico Ryans and a couple of different players would talk, and just the excitement that I had to go out there. I didn't care that it was going to be 1,000,000 degrees outside. I didn't care that I was going to be hot and sweat through my clothes. I was so excited to watch football. I had a friend text me as the practice was getting going, like, well, hey, what are you doing? Did you make it out to camp? And I just texted him back a picture, and I said, this is my happy place. Covering this team, covering football, that is my happy place. And let me tell you, I was extremely happy with today's practice and to be out there and to tell you all about it. So let's get into it. Some of the comments and conversations that we're going to go through. We'll get through some of the things that I observed. We'll go through some talking points. We'll get to some of your comments along the way. And, of course, the Q&A, the big one at the end, where you guys can just fire away. And I got a little new feature for you if you want to hop in here on the live stream. CJ Stroud versus Davis Mills on day one, the number 2 overall selection in the 2023 NFL draft, the franchise quarterback versus, I guess, the incumbent. I mean, Davis Mills is here. He's been here going into his 3rd season in the NFL. If I was scoring this as a MMA judge or a boxing judge, I would score this a decision win for CJ Stroud today. Stroud, to me, looked better. He made fewer mistakes, and he just had a better day, from my observation, than Davis Mills. Mills, very early on, missed a throw here or there. Not to say that Stroud didn't miss throws as well, and we'll talk about that here in just a moment, but it's a boxing or MMA card decision for CJ Stroud today. So Nick Caserio said this before practice. I thought this was pretty good. It's very sobering to show you just how much time these teams don't have to put it together. You have 20 practices, 3 preseason games, and then the Baltimore Ravens are right around the corner. So 20 practices, 3 preseason games, and boom, the Baltimore Ravens are up for the Houston Texans. Well, in the 20 practices, and we'll score this as long as there's a quarterback competition, because there is a quarterback competition. Even if you don't believe in the quarterback competition, there is a quarterback competition. So score this one, CJ Stroud 1, Davis Mills 0, and we'll keep track over the course of all the days of camp. And look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. I'm out there. I'm going to be at every practice. I'm going to be at the joint practices when the Dolphins come to town. I'm going to be at the joint practices in New Orleans when they're taking on the Saints in joint practices. So there will be days where CJ Stroud doesn't look good. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, okay? I'd like for CJ Stroud to be good. I believe in CJ Stroud, but if Davis Mills has a better day, I'm going to sit here and tell you about it on the YouTube Lives, on the YouTube recorded videos, on Houston Football. So today, CJ Stroud had the better day. And just a little bit more about Mills and Stroud and this rotation that they're going through. So there is a rotation. There's not a very clear operating order to me, like, oh, well, this guy goes at this time or this guy goes at that time. But both guys played with what you would call expected starters, the ones, if you will. And that's going to be the case until this team decides, hey, CJ Stroud is the franchise quarterback. He deserves a lot more reps. And I would go ahead and tell you, CJ Stroud still took a lot of reps today, okay? And the rep importance kind of revs up here in the next couple of weeks, okay? It revs up. You get a little bit more importance to the reps. Padded reps are more important than the reps now, in my opinion. Joint practice reps, and the way Nick Caserio talked about joint practice today, joint practice reps are going to be very important in deciding a lot of things about this team. So joint practice reps are going to be really important. So in your pecking order, the reps that are happening right now for Davis Mills and CJ Stroud aren't as important as padded reps and aren't going to be as important as joint practice reps. So I'm not super worried. And again, Stroud's still getting a big number of reps throughout the course of the practice. It's not like he's sitting over on the side and Davis Mills is over here throwing with all the ones. Like, that's not the case. Stroud's getting a lot of reps. And again, I think it's important. And Bobby Slowick's talked about this in the offseason. D'Amico Ryans talked about this in the offseason. There's a build that has to be put together for CJ Stroud because he's going to be under center more than he was at Ohio State. He's going to have a different play call situation. It's not going to be look at the big boards over on the sideline and, okay, there's a funny face. And there's a picture of a Dr. Pepper. And, okay, that's this play. He got Bobby Slowick in his ear with a paragraph of information and a play call, and then he got to spit it back out to everybody. So to me, I'm not super worried these early days that the first team reps are split. Okay. Stroud's getting plenty of reps. Now let's talk about Stroud's day and some of the stuff that I saw from that. In the drills early on, the accuracy is really clear. Okay. The accuracy, he's pinpoint. The ball doesn't flutter. It slices through the air. Receivers aren't drastically adjusting their routes to make the play. I mean, Stroud's throwing these guys open. And again, it's drills, but I think the precision with which those drills are run when Stroud is throwing the football is an important element of observing one day into Texans training camp. Okay. Because we've seen quarterbacks come through here who had a big arm and could get it down the field. We've seen quarterbacks come through here who could, throw it really hard, but there wasn't some precision. Maybe he's a little bit behind it. Precision was the name of the game with Stroud in some of those drills today. And it's just against air. Guys are just running routes, but it's crisp. Okay. And it needs to look crisp pretty much all the time if CJ Stroud is going to take this team, take this organization to the next level, and certainly do some in the beginning of his time as the franchise quarterback for this team. And the bad from today was there's a few overthrows. There were some overthrows. He overthrew Nico Collins once. He overthrew Noah Brown once. He overthrew Johnny Johnson, who's one of the wide receivers in camp once. There were some overthrows, but I'd rather you miss deep than miss short and somebody's coming down with it. You know what I mean? So I'd rather you miss deep than miss short. And there was a play over the middle. I thought this was funny. Stroud just, there's a little bit of pressure coming, and he just kind of made a decision, and it got batted away. And he just did the old, and he was like, it was almost like he was saying, CJ, you dummy. But, right off the field, that rep's over, right off the field. Boom, Gerard Johnson's right there, the quarterback coach. Bobby Slowick was talking to CJ Stroud at one point. You could see the gestures and the hand movements and seeing what, you could guess what they're talking about and the coaching. And he's going to get coached hard. I believe in Gerard Johnson at the quarterback spot. I've known Gerard for a while before he got into coaching. Fun guy to talk ball with, high-level individual from everything I've heard, everything I know about what Gerard puts together. We'll get to the play of the day and CJ's best play here in just a moment. I do want to shout out Jacob the Texan. Hey, thank you for the super chat, man. You have a question, super chats get answered right away, and we'll get to those real quick into the live broadcast, and we'll get to the Q&A portion a little bit later. But if you got something that you desperately want to know, a super chat is certainly the way to do it. Jacob the Texan, 713. Stroud do any running or movement drills? There was a play where the defense just sort of knew what was coming, and they read everything really well. And Stroud was kind of looking, and he just kind of took off. And the play was sort of on the far side of the field, so I couldn't tell you exactly how many yards it was, but it was 6-7 yards before one of those defenders plays, very light two-hand touch, because my God, you cannot touch the quarterback, and certainly don't touch C.J. Stroud in the early days of training camp, okay? But, yeah, there was a play where Stroud scrambled for a few yards. That wasn't a design play. I don't anticipate we're going to see a lot of designed plays in this offense for Stroud to run. But, yeah, there was a play that there was nothing there. The only option was C.J. Stroud takes off, and, he snagged a few yards. And for this team, the margin for error is going to be pretty small till we find out truly what this offense can be. So, 3rd and 3 instead of 3rd and 7 because Stroud picked up 4 yards, that's going to be an important one. And that's going to be an important one, something to pay attention to. So we'll get to Titus Howard's big day here in just a second, but I do want to acknowledge a few of the comments, a few of the people here watching. You're welcome to get in the comments. I appreciate it. I think it's actually on that side of the screen. Whichever side of the screen the comments are on from my camera, you're welcome to get in the comments. Matt Marr, he's been in the lives a bunch. Appreciate you. Nathan, appreciate you coming by. Function, we'll talk about that here in the Q&A portion. We'll get to that there at the end. Eddie, appreciate you dropping by. Juan, thank you. Birdie, appreciate you. Okay. This is actually a good question. Why would you keep Mills? It'll be a problem if he's not a starter. Just trade Mills from late picks and move on. I don't believe Davis Mills will be an issue here. Davis Mills knows that he's got to be ready in case C.J. Stroud can't go for whatever reason. I don't get the vibe that Davis Mills would be a problem in the locker room. And I believe this organization is going to keep 3 quarterbacks. D'Amico Ryans just came from a team where the 3rd quarterback had to play a portion of the back end of the year and took him to the NFC Championship. And basically because Brock Purdy's arm exploded in the NFC Championship game, they changed the quarterback emergency rule. So they're going to keep all 3. And oh, by the way, Mills just physically has more than Case Keenum at this point. And so if you had to play the backup for any certain amount of time, Mills gives you a better chance to succeed than Case Keenum does. Fantasy life, we all need a happy place. Minus chillax and watching the Benjamins come my way on Sunday afternoons. Hey, man, there's going to be some fun betting content on this channel too. So be on the lookout for that. Julian, appreciate you dropping by, man. Julian's been on the channel a bunch. 11 Bravo, thank you. Today gave me hope that CJ can revitalize Nico's career. They seem like a solid duo so far. We'll talk about Nico when we talk about the wide receivers here in just a moment. And one final comment on the quarterbacks, then we'll get to Titus Howard for the evening. Good stuff, Cody. It's going to be fun to see the QB battle. Hey, look, I had a buddy of mine, my buddy Mike, who does a fantastic job on YouTube, here on YouTube. He does a fantastic job with book reviews. He's an incredible book reviewer. Mike's book reviews on YouTube. Follow him. He messaged me and he said, can we stop the charade of the quarterback competition? Like, we all know CJ Stroud is going to start. And yes, CJ Stroud is going to start. They're going to take their time in announcing that. And part of this is Stroud's going to go out there and just beat up on Davis Mills a bunch of days in a row, and boom, then he's the quarterback. So I'm not super worried about the competition. It's not a competition CJ Stroud can lose. And if he does lose, we're all screwed. Okay? Like the team is in a horrible spot if he loses this quarterback competition to Davis Mills. He can't lose the quarterback competition. So to me, it's not super important if a week or so into training camp, there's still a competition. Okay? And again, Judge's scorecard. Judge Cody Stoots scores this 10-9 for CJ Stroud in round 1 of hopefully what is not too many rounds. Okay? If it's like round 18 out of 20 practices, that's not good. So hopefully not too many different things. Again, we'll get to the Q&A here at the end. I got a fun twist on the Q&A for you. So if you want a specific question or it doesn't hit the topics that we're going through, the Q&A is where you can get to that. I'd appreciate a subscription down below, a share, a like on the video, and of course, www.houfootball.com for Houston Football, my new site, where you can get all of my writing on the Houston Texans. Titus Howard's big payday. Woo! What a fun thing to wake up to this morning if you're Titus Howard's friends who didn't get the call last night. Shaq Mason talked after practice last night. Late last evening, Titus Howard hit the offensive line group chat, was like, hey, it's done. We're here. Imagine if you were one of Titus Howard's college buddies and you woke up this morning when Schefter's got the Twitter fingers going at 6 a.m. and you're like, oh, my guy got paid. He got the Texans broke him off here. Like, that would be really fun. That'd be a fun thing to wake up to if Titus Howard didn't alert you to the deal getting done last night. Now, Nick Caserio explained, there's still this or that they got to finish, so it's not official. But Titus Howard is going to be getting a big-time contract extension, 3 years, $56 million, $36.5 million guaranteed. My initial reaction to Titus signing the deal was he probably could have got a little bit more in free agency. But you know what free agency runs the risk of? Well, you run the risk of playing a whole season and potentially getting hurt. That's not good. That keeps you from improving on the number that he ultimately got. And oh, by the way, you run the risk of the franchise tag, right? The franchise tag. Like, if you play really well and you have a contract number that is just crazy and the Texans don't want to pay it, then they just franchise tag you and then you don't have many options. Like, there's a little bit of maneuverability to the quarterbacks and a little bit to the wide receivers. We saw the franchise tag crush running backs this year. The franchise tag would be tough to maneuver, and you're not hitting free agency and getting a big raise if you get franchise tagged at the right tackle spot. So initial reaction, Howard could have got more in free agency, but it would have been hard and risky to hit free agency because the Texans are not letting you just walk for nothing. And as far as the Texans go, they now have Laramie Tunsil locked up, Shaq Mason locked up, and Titus Howard locked up for these first few years of C.J. Stroud's career with the Texans, and specifically the cheap years of C.J. Stroud's contract. So they have those guys locked up. And oh, by the way, if Kenyon Green plays well, Juice Scruggs plays well, if the left guard and the center aren't going to be expensive for the next few years. So after I found out Titus was locked up and I thought, hey, could I get a little bit more money? My next reaction was this. It's expensive. The offensive line is very expensive. There is stability now. And Shaq Mason talked about it after practice today. He's like, we're all here. We're ready to roll. Okay? It's expensive now. The expectation is now excellence. This cannot be an average offensive line. With this level of commitment, one of the 5 highest paid right tackles, one of the highest paid left tackle, one of the highest paid guards, a first-round pick, and we think a second-round pick there at center, this cannot be an average offensive line. Now, maybe this year there's some average to it because Juice Scruggs is going to be a rookie and Kenyon Green's bouncing back from a bad year. But at some point, this offensive line has got to be an elite offensive line. There are no excuses for this offensive line to not be an elite offensive line when they have invested this much into the offensive line. I know Laramie Tunsil's good. Anybody who's a casual football fan can tell you Laramie Tunsil is really good at what he does. And I'm excited to see what he does to improve on last year because I do feel like Tunsil's a little slighted in the fact that he wasn't a first-team All-Pro last year. But it takes some evaluation and some prognostication from Nick Caserio to say, Titus Howard's been good, he's going to be great, and we're going to pay him that way. Shaq Mason's been a pretty good player. He's been on his 3rd team in 3 years now, but he's going to stick with us, and we're going to extend him. Like, part of that is Caserio, his evaluation process, and betting on what he believes in these players so that over the next couple of years, right now, it takes some getting used to. It takes some cohesion. They've got to build that over training camp and all that. This offensive line has to be excellent going forward. I'm not saying that it's immediate. I'm not saying week 1 in Baltimore, they ought to be shutting everybody down. That's not what I'm saying. But we should see a significant jump in the offensive lines from previous years to this one. And to be really honest with everybody, and you guys know if you're a Texans fan, you've talked about this team or you pay attention to this team, it's been 2012 since they've had a really good offensive line. 2012, when it was anchored by Chris Myers, Wade Smith, and Dwayne Brown, center to left tackle, and then they had some good work there over on the right side, Eric Winston at right tackle, some of those different guys that they had at right guard. It's been since 2012, 2011, since this organization's had an offensive line that you feel really good about. Well, with the investment you've put into this offensive line, this one damn sure better be as good and maybe even better, because Laramie Tunsil's better than Dwayne Brown is. You hope that right side is really good. Shaq Mason's a well-respected player. Titus Howard has had some really nice moments. Like, you hope that this organization has bet on the right guys to turn this offensive line into excellence. And if you've heard me talk about anything over the past few months about this team, I like Chris Strasser, their offensive line coach. He came from Indianapolis, where they had that incredible offensive line for a few years. And I have not liked the offensive line coach situation here the past few seasons. George Warhop was the O-line coach last year, came over from a Jacksonville team that underperformed on the offensive line. Prior to that, you had James Campen, who was only here for 1 year, and then he's out of here. Prior to that, it was Mike Devlin. Mike Devlin was not great as an offensive line coach. So Chris Strasser, with a resume that is incredible for O-line coaches and the investment, this offensive line's got to be excellent someday soon. Someday soon. It may not for sure every week occur in 2023, but my goodness, if you don't have excellence at some point in the future with this offensive line, what have you spent all this money on? Why was it so expensive to not get – when you spend this much money and you have this much investment in the center and the left guard from a draft pick standpoint, because remember, it's not just what you took. You took those guys who used a first-round pick on Kenyon Green. It's what could you have gotten instead of Kenyon Green. They traded up for Juice Scruggs. This offensive line's got to be excellent here pretty soon. Got to be excellent pretty soon. So that's where I'm at on this offensive line and the Titus Howard conversation. We'll get to the wideouts here in just a moment, the secondary as well. I want to get to some of your comments here. Jacob the Texan 713. Top 10 O-line, top 15 secondary, calling it right now. I don't think it's out of the question you could see top 10 in both. Okay, we'll get to the secondary last here in our topics, then we'll get to some Q&A, but the secondary's pretty fun. Pretty fun. Roberto agrees. Nathan asked about depth on the offensive line. So this is an interesting one because they've got some options from a depth standpoint. One of those guys that I did a 53-man roster projection. So the way too early 53 roster projection on the offensive line, 4 tackles, 4 guards, and a center. So 9 offensive linemen. I had Charlie Heck and Austin Deculus in there as the backup offensive tackles. Charlie Heck's going into his final year with the team after O'Brien drafted him a few years ago. But he had surgeries on the PUP list. So he's not practicing yet. He's on the physically unable to perform list right now. So that's a depth piece that's off the board. Deculus is here. He looks, pretty solid from like that jump from that rookie to that second-year player. It's always something to watch with offensive linemen. So Deculus is a depth guy for tackle. They brought in Greg Little, who is I'm looking at my roster here. They pass out the rosters. They brought in Greg Little as a free agent, and that's a depth guy. Potentially, they got this giant kid from Auburn, Killian Zaire, big kid. He kind of stands out amongst the offensive linemen. That's maybe a practice squad depth guy. There's some depth there. And then the versatility of the interior offensive lineman sort of provides your unique depth. Jarrett Patterson can play center and guard. Michael Dieter can play center and guard. Kenyon Green has versatility within the line. Like, you wouldn't play him at center, but God forbid Shaq Mason's got to miss a game. Okay, Green can play right guard. Dieter can play left guard because Green played a bunch of different spots at Texas A&M. So the versatility inside is where the depth kind of comes from. I don't love the depth. Again, when you spend what they've spent on the offensive line, if one of these guys is gone, then it's not going to be great. Like, yeah, there's some give and take. When it's that expensive, the depth's not going to be awesome. Okay. As Juan puts it, as I just said, if anybody goes down, there's going to be some trouble here. The offensive line will be top 12 at least. I'd love for that to be the goal to shoot for, and I'd be interested to see exactly what a productive season looks like for this offensive line as far as the standards that the coaches have for them. Like, what constitutes a productive season for this offensive line? They're going to be good. Okay. All right. I believe you. All right. Want to hear about Xavier Hutchinson in the wideout section. He can be sneaky good. Birdie, we will get to Will Anderson. Don't worry. We will get to Will Anderson. Okay. Well, I want to ask about the Xavier Hutchinson, the wide receiver situation. Let's get to it here. Wideout competition. Nico Collins is fantastic in practice. That's what Nico Collins does. Nico Collins is an incredible practice player, and it hasn't translated to the games yet. But my goodness, if he doesn't just absolutely kick people's tails in practice. I mean, he got Stingley today on a long one. He got Stingley again on another one, kind of like an out route where he just separated really well. Nico Collins is one of the starters. He's the outside guy. And then it's figuring everything else out. And when I say everything else, I truly mean everything else out. And I like the comment from D'Amico Ryans today. They were asking him about the wide receiver room. And he's like, look, we got a month of workouts to figure everything out and then figure out who the starters are. We got a month of workouts. You know, and as Caserio put it before practice, hey, 20 practices and 3 preseason games, and the Baltimore Ravens are up. So 19 practices and 3 preseason games to figure out the wide receiver situation. Robert Woods is absolutely going to be a factor. You know, the veteran, inside-outside versatility for him. And then it's sort of a big question mark after that. John Mechie is at practice. John Mechie is working out, is practicing. He's cleared after the cancer diagnosis last year. That's one of the best things about training camp today is, hey, John Mechie's playing football again. And that's a big win for John Mechie and everybody who is supporting John Mechie. Is he's playing football again. He's doing what he loves to do. He's back at work, and that's awesome to see for John Mechie. From a football standpoint, I'm excited to see what Mechie brings to the table. Inside, outside versatility. He can line up outside. He can line up inside. He did both at Alabama. I believe he'll do both here in the NFL. So Mechie's going to be a factor. Man, Tank Dell, when he gets going and that quickness and the sharpness that he does some of those things, that is a guy that is going to be hard to keep off the field if he starts stacking consistent days together. He starts putting it together day after day after day. It's going to be hard to keep Tank Dell off the field. And some of those quick out routes, 5 yards, chop your feet, boom, you're out. He's leaving guys in the dust, and he's going to be a matchup problem for someone. I don't know. Maybe it's a slow slot guy. Well, Tank's really fast. Maybe it's a linebacker. Well, Tank's really quick. Like, he's going to be a matchup problem. He did have a catch over the middle today and then immediately fumbled the football. Denzel Perryman came up with it. So that's something to pay attention to. One quick note about Mechie and Dell, both in the punt return conversation. Mechie's not going to return punts. He had a tough time catching punts today, and I don't know how comfortable exactly he is in doing that. Tank Dell was rock solid catching punts, in the special teams. I mean, those things got in his hands and the ball didn't move. There wasn't even a little shake at all. So to me, it's Tank Dell and Desmond King fighting each other for the punt return spot. Mechie's going to have an opportunity. Amari Rodgers is in the conversation there. But punt return, it kind of feels like it's Tank Dell versus Desmond King. But we're talking about the wide receivers here. All right, so we talked about Woods and Nico. Okay, not a ton to address there just yet. Mechie and Tank Dell. Noah Brown's a fascinating player on this team. Inside, outside versatility. Okay, played outside a little bit for the Cowboys when he was over with the Cowboys. Played inside a bunch for the Cowboys last year. So inside-outside versatility. Noah Brown gets open. He got open in minicamp. When I watched in minicamp back a couple of month or plus ago, and he got open today. He was open a couple of different times, made a catch. CJ Stroud just missed him on an overthrow at one point. Noah Brown gets open against the secondary. And by the way, we'll talk about the secondary in a minute. It's going to be hard to get open against the secondary. So Noah Brown is certainly a guy that is going to be a factor. I know on Houston football, www.houfootball.com, I put him as maybe a surprise cut. He's only a surprise cut if the Texans' young players at wide receivers absolutely ball out. And it'd be very hard to see them move on from that veteran if indeed they are going to do that. But he keeps getting open. So he's a guy to watch, and he'll be a factor in the wide receiver situation. Now it's just that's 5 guys, okay? And you got to think they're probably keeping 6, maybe 5. If that's 5, there's your 5 guys. Robert Woods, Nico Collins, Noah Brown, John Mechie, Tank Dell. There's your 5. But if they keep 6, my goodness, do they have a fight on their hands for that 6th spot. Now, Xavier Hutchinson, I would think, with a 6th-round pick, has a little bit of a leg up on some of these other players. But Amari Rodgers has been around the NFL for a couple of years. Steven Sims is back, and he's been with the organization for a couple of seasons now. Jalen Camp is a guy that's going to have an opportunity. Jared Wayne is somebody who he had a nice catch on the sideline today. I think Case Keenum threw him the ball. Alex Bachman, who was a street free agent from last year, been around a little bit. He impressed in minicamp, at least impressed me. He had a couple of nice plays. Johnny Johnson's a fast option. There's a lot of guys fighting for that 6th wide receiver spot, and then there will be a lot of guys fighting. Ultimately, if you don't make the 53, they're going to keep some wide receivers on the practice squad. So it's important to pay attention to these other guys because they're going to be in the building from a practice squad standpoint. So that fight for, are they keeping 5 or are they keeping 6? And if they're keeping 6, who is number 6? That's something we'll pay attention to. And man, as things start to sort of ramp up, I mean, I'm excited to watch these wideouts against Miami when Miami's in town for joint practices. That's a nasty secondary. Titus Howard and Jalen Ramsey. Like, that's a really tough secondary. So those one-on-one matchups in the middle of August are going to be awesome. Caserio was gushing about joint practices and how important they are. So it'll be great to see that portion of the competition for wideouts. And as D'Amico Ryan said, they got a month to start figuring out starters. And there's plenty of time. So we'll update you on the wideout stuff plenty over the next few weeks here. Julian asks a very important question. Are you going to be at training camp every day? Absolutely. I'm going to be at every practice. I'm going to be at the joint practices when Miami are here. I'm going to be at the joint practices in New Orleans when they go to hang out with the Saints for a couple of days in late August. I'll be at practices every day. You get training camp observations on Houston football. You can subscribe at the link below in the description, or www.houfootball.com is where you can find the website. So you get the written things there. You get tons of video content here on the YouTube page. So throw me a subscribe there as well. And if you're going out to training camp like Julian is, let me know. I will try to come see you after some of the interviews and stuff like that, or in one of the breaks or the special teams periods. I'll do my best to try to come see you over on the fan portion. They keep us media and the fans separate a little bit, but I'll do my best to try to come see you either, during a portion of the slow portion of the practice or one of those situations after practice as well. Super secondary. Defense won the day. Okay, I scored it. CJ Stroud 10, Davis Mills 9 earlier in that analogy. I score it defense 10, offense 9 today. Tough moving the rock against this secondary and some of this pass rush. And I'm not worried about that because look at where some of the youth is and look at where some of the experience and talent is. First-year starter at quarterback, third-year starter at quarterback. or, first-year player quarterback, third-year player quarterback. 2 basically rookies at wide receiver. Basically a rookie at left guard. And not basically, but second-year player at left guard at Kenyon Green, or new system with Michael Dieter, or Scott Questenberry at center. Then go look at the investment and the experience. Denzel Perryman, former Pro Bowler, played a couple of different teams around this league. Christian Harris, high potential guy, well thought of. Christian Kirksey, been a linebacker in this league for a long time. Jerry Hughes is entering double-digit years in the NFL. Will Anderson was the number 3 overall pick. Jimmy Ward has been a starting safety in this league basically since he got drafted. Derek Stingley's the former number 3 overall pick. Steven Nelson's a veteran who's been around the block. Shaquille Griffin's a veteran who's been around the block. You look at I'm not worried about the defense being a little bit ahead. By the way, the defense always is ahead of the offense early on, especially when you get the pads on, which is coming next week. So I wasn't worried. But, man, this secondary is a fun situation to think about. Derek Stingley, he can be a starting corner. We talked about how good he looked in minicamp. He still looks good, from a physical standpoint. Changed his body a little bit, that year 1 to year 2 leap sometimes players take. That spot opposite him is a fun one. Steven Nelson's here, folks. All the extra, all the BS, all the what is Steven Nelson doing talking crap about Casario's vests on social media. Oh, he hired a new agent. Does he want a new contract? All of that, Steven Nelson reported. Steven Nelson was practicing. Steven Nelson was on the field. And Nick Caserio was joking about it. So somebody got asked about Steven Nelson, and he's like, oh, yeah, no, Steven's here. He reported. We had everybody report. And, I know Steven doesn't like my wardrobe. Ha, ha, ha. One of the better jokes Caserio has told. And I wonder if water's under the bridge on the whole situation, or if something's going to happen for Steven Nelson that, he showed up and he's, going to play and, take his time to. If Steven Nelson's on board and he's an option, this is a real deep cornerback room. Look at Stingley, Nelson, Shaquille Griffin as a backup. Desmond King has inside-outside versatility. And Tavier Thomas was rated as one of the best slot cornerbacks in all of football last year and 2 years ago. So that's a real deep cornerback room. Now you add in Jalen Petrie and Jimmy Ward at safety with some of the backup players that they have at safety. Ooh, come on. There's some real fun potential with this secondary. And they were flying around, man. My goodness, they were flying around. They were on wide receivers. They were getting physical. They were making it tough on these quarterbacks. And so I'm excited to watch the secondary evolve a little bit more, see the mixing and matching, the versatility that so many people have in the secondary. Like Stingley can cover this type of guy, Nelson cover that type of guy. Petrie and Ward are sort of interchangeable with some of their skill sets there at the safety spot. And then as part of the secondary, not necessarily the secondary, but part of coverage, these linebackers are flying around in coverage. And they got Henry To'o, the rookie, barking out orders, getting people in line. Perryman was all over somebody. Christian Harris looks like $1 million out there from a physical standpoint. He had the big, year 1 to year 2, the leap, the physicality. So I'm really excited about the secondary. I believe they could be one of the more talented groups. And if Petrie's, ascension occurs and Ward is a really good player again in the secondary, and Stingley turns out to be worth the number 3 overall pick, it's a pretty fun situation when you start thinking about the secondary. El Mario, wish there were more practice videos. I'm from Mexico City, and I'm fiending for that extra content. I have a couple of videos from the practice up on my Twitter account at Cody_Stoots, where you can find it on Twitter. The Texans do a pretty good job of tweeting out some of the highlights. I saw the Nico Collins and CJ Stroud highlight making its way around social media. And, there's a short there's a short shooting period. So, but you get drills, you get some one-on-one stuff sometimes. You don't get much team stuff where you're allowed to record. Friday would be a little bit different. You have a bunch of fans out there, but I'll try to get a couple extra videos and some drills for my guy Mario as well as anybody else. How jacked is Stingley in person? I thought he was trying out for Mr. Universe. The guy looks like he's carved out of granite. And he's effortlessly athletic too, which is something that I don't know that we talked enough about Stingley in the draft process. But it doesn't take much for him to kind of get going here. Turn into the guy that's just flying down the sideline. Nick is a better man than me. David, look, I'm a legendary grudge holder. Okay, I can hold a grudge with the best of them, and Nick Caserio, I truly believe he doesn't take very many things personally. He talked about this with Titus Howard's contract negotiation. He goes, it doesn't do anybody any good to take things personally. It's a business. Hey, does it fit? Does it not fit? Let's have a conversation. This is what we want to do. This is what you want to do. It's a big conversation, so I don't think he took the Steven Nelson stuff personally. And really, I mean, who's on Steven Nelson's side? Has he played well enough to have some massive contract extension? I don't believe he has. He's a nice player. But, I mean, he signed a 2-year deal last year. Just because you changed management doesn't mean you automatically get a new deal. Okay. Touch of Trent. What's up, Cody? Hope all is well. Thank you, Trent. Man, all is great. I legitimately have had one of the most fun weeks of my professional career covering this team, and it's Wednesday. The site has been a lot of fun. A ton of reaction to the site, Houston Football, HOUfootball.com, www.HOUfootball.com. There's a link in the description. A ton of people have signed up. I really appreciate that. We've had a lot of good response here on the YouTube and the YouTube. What am I, 90? We've had a lot of good response on YouTube with the videos. We're going to do a lot of recorded content. We'll do a lot of these lives. We'll do some collaborations with some of the other YouTubers. If you watched yesterday on Landry Locker's channel, we had a training camp preview that Landry and I did. My guy Ruben here at 713 Houston Sports, we're going to do some collabs with him. The Texans Fan Battle Podcast, going to do some stuff with those guys. So there's going to be some fun stuff. I truly have had one of the best weeks of my career and one of the most fun weeks of my career, and it's Wednesday. We've had one practice. I'm so excited to be doing this, covering the Texans full time. I'm so excited that everybody will come into the live, hang out, talk Texans at 7:45 on a Wednesday. We're going to do mornings live streams and afternoon recorded content. We're going to flip it and vice versa. It's going to be fun. We got a lot of fun stuff planned. A couple more comments on the secondary. We'll get to Q&A, and then we'll get to the fan yourself moment of the day. Okay? We'll get to that here in just a second. Talon, Mr. Green, if you will. Top 10 secondary? I don't think so. But if everybody plays well, it's going to be fun. I'll say that. I don't know where they're going to rank. I got to think about this. There's a lot of really good secondaries. And you know what? Here's this is great. Actually, this plays into this. The fan yourself moment of the day. Okay. What is Cody, what the hell is the fan yourself moment of the day? It's when you take whatever you're holding and you already fan yourself because it's hot. But when you see a play happen and you go, oh my goodness. Oh my word. What was that? Will Anderson's going to win that a bunch. I wrote about this in the 11 observations, the Stoots-servations, as people call it. I don't always call it that, but I like the name actually. So the 11 observations training, he teleports. It's like Will Anderson teleports from where he starts on the defense to where the play is. The suddenness with which he moves is incredible. And I'm really excited to watch him when pads come on. I'm really excited to watch him against other linemen, because there's a couple of linemen that are not going to like their reps against Will Anderson when they look at film today. And Titus Howard's one of them. Will Anderson had a play against Titus Howard where Anderson would have had the sack. You can't tackle the quarterback. You don't even really get close to him. But Anderson would have had the sack and a real rep, or Titus Howard would have had the holding call and the pass would have got away. Like Howard was doing everything he could to keep him away from the quarterback. So Will Anderson's a fun watch, and he is the recipient of the Day One Fan Yourself Award of the day. Ooh, look at that. The Fan Yourself Award of the day. Maybe we can get a official fan sponsor for that. And then I'll hold up like a little mini fan with their logo. The official fan sponsor of that. All right. Q&A time. Houston Fan Battle is going to get going a little bit later. I don't want to encroach on their time. Try not to overlap too much. I want everybody to have their time here on YouTube. Q&A time. You fire away with the Q&As. If you have a thing that you just want to get answered before everybody else, the super chat is the way to go. Okay. I'm doing something that I haven't done ever on the live stream. If you're in the chat, I put the link to get in and you're on the video chat with me. Okay. That's the link. You click it, you get into, it's called the backstage. And then I can bring you here on the live stream. You can ask your question that way. But of course, the questions in the chat, we can answer those as well. We mentioned some of the different things. Birdie, I hope that I answered your Will Anderson question. Okay. Nick Casario saying Steven Nelson is like his wardrobe had me dead. Nick's a snappy dresser, man. I don't dress great. I like to be comfortable. I'll take comfort over style. Nick Casario not crushing Steven Nelson for that was funny to me. So again, you can get your questions in on here. I'll address 97.5 here in a second, and then you can also do the live video. And are you ready to make history, Juan? Are you ready to make history? You're the first ever live guest to ask a question here for Q&A on the YouTube. Juan, can you hear me? Can the folks hear Juan?
I hear you loud and clear, Cody. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. What you got for us?
It's not a football question. It's just I would like to change it from Stootsy's observations to Stoots Scoops.
Stoots Scoops.
Yes, sir.
Ooh, we could get a little ice cream sponsor, maybe.
Yes,
maybe like Baskin Robbins. But then I got to go to 31 scoops if it's Baskin Robbins.
But that's all I got for today, man.
Juan, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for jumping in. Stoots Scoops, man. See, I like I've been calling it 11 observations for years, and 11 is it's a football number. You get 11 guys on offense, 11 guys on defense. A lot of people do 10. I give you one more, 11. And sometimes I give you the bonus ones as well. Austin, jump on in here, man. What you got for us?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you loud and clear, man. What you got? Fire away.
Yeah, I wanted to know why you decided to branch off and go do your own thing.
Yeah, man. Good question. Good question, Austin. For me, it just felt like the perfect time to go in and full-time cover this Texans team. Covering the NFL and covering the Texans is what I like more than anything else. Not to say I don't like the Astros or I don't like the Rockets. And I love college football. I'm a Heisman Trophy voter. I love college football. But I wanted to be in as much as I could on this Texans team. And I just saw a timing aspect of it where I felt like now or never. I have the opportunity because I have a great support system around me with my family and friends and all the great listeners from the previous radio stops as well as the people from YouTube. So I just felt like it was the right time, and I really wanted to attack this and attack digital. And I still believe in radio. I still am friends with all those guys at 97.5. Jake's I've known him for years since he got to Houston. He's a very good friend of mine. BK and I became fast friends when he got here. Andrew, my producer, great human being. There's no animosity there. They were very gracious to me on the way out the door as, I was leaving. It just felt like the right time to do this. I love covering the NFL. I love covering the Texans. It just felt like the right time for me.
Well, I can tell you, I've been an avid supporter of your work, man. You definitely are my favorite person to tune into when it comes to Texans or Houston sports. That the show over there isn't the same without you, so I went looking for you and I found you here. So we're gonna support you any way we can, and I'm gonna find out anything new that you pop up on. I'll be there.
Awesome, man. I appreciate that. Thank you. And I tell you, it's been awesome to see the support. It's been real awesome to see the support from everybody. It's been a fun week, a very fun week here. All right. Couple questions here from the chat. What the running backs look like? No pads, no contact. Tough to judge. Dameon Pierce he's explosive. I mean, he gets going in a hurry. Singletary is going to be fun as an addition, and I'll give Sean Pendergast at Sports Radio 610. I'll give him credit for this observation. I don't have disgust when I see 28 on the field anymore. It's Jared Dokes is 28. Of course, Rex Burkhead used to be 28 as well. So I'm not shivering in disgust when 28 is near the football. Running backs, we'll find out a lot more about them next week when some of the padded stuff gets going. And but yeah, Pierce looks fast. Singletary, they got a lot of guys that catch the ball. They're going to throw the ball to the running backs, man. I've talked about this. San Francisco threw the ball to running backs a lot. Okay, threw the ball to running backs a lot. So I'm excited to see how much they throw the ball to the running backs. Sean, what's up, Stoots? Apologize, already asked. What's your concern, if any, with Kenyon Green? So I wrote an article on Houston football about Kenyon Green, some of the data that does not say Kenyon Green's going to be very good this year. Not super concerned with him. They're working him in. Okay, coming back from an offseason surgery, knee injury. So they're working him in. Pads will be important. I don't think there was any sort of massive physical change that I could really tell from Kenyon Green, but he's getting worked. He's getting worked back in. Greg, thoughts on the Titans blasphemy? I'm so tired of the Tennessee Titans, and I cannot wait to see the Texans will have a better record than the Titans this year. The Titans will be the worst team in the AFC South. I'm proclaiming it today, training camp day number 1. The Texans will have a better record than the Titans. The Titans will be the worst team in the AFC South. I believe it. I do not think the Titans are going to be any good this year. I don't really like that Hopkins is there. I feel bad that he's there because they're going to stink. But he got paid, so he can't be too upset. Yeah, I don't like the Titans. I love the Oilers stuff. I got an Earl Campbell throwback, like one of the cheap throwbacks. I don't have like one of the fancy throwbacks. I got an Earl Campbell throwback in my closet. It doesn't fit right now because I'm heavier than I used to be. But I got a cool Oilers shirt. I got a cool Oilers hat. It's tougher to wear that now that the Titans are going to wear those throwbacks. It's silly. You know what? Titans fans like it because the uniform looks cool. That's the deal. The uniform looks cool. That's why people like it. They don't like it because it was the Oilers. They like it because the uniform's cool. Okay, but it's beat them on the field. I hope they wear it. And I hope the Texans kick their ass when they wear it. Okay? Hope they wear it. How's the play calling so far? How's CJ handling that aspect? Tough to tell. It's all real simple right now. They don't even go the full couple of hours of practice just yet. Everybody's kind of getting acclimated. Nick Caserio did talk about it's important for him to learn the offense, to understand, hey, this guy performed this way in the play. Was that what he was supposed to do? Or this guy didn't do this right. Was it because of the play call? And Caserio talked about how fun that aspect of the offense has been for him to learn and kind of sit down with Slowick and the rest of the offensive staff and for him to learn it because it's a different offense than what he's been used to in his time from New England and things like that. And, I still think it's really cool that they've got the little, they got like a little walkie-talkie and, Slowick calls the play and the quarterbacks can hear it in their headset right there on the field. Obviously, on game day, they got the big headset, and the QBs can hear it, but they simulated pretty good. We won't know on Slowick's play calling until like weeks into the season. So this is something. Mario, let's put a pin in this. Let's come back like week 6. Okay, and we'll check out Bobby Slowick's play calling then. Jose, what a perfect time to branch out. Call the Texans. Good move. 100% supporter. Jose, thank you so much. Thank you to everybody. From the people that want to jump on live in the video portion of the chat, to the people in the comments, to the subscribers to Houston Football, to the subscribers here to YouTube. Thank you, everybody. I can't say thank you enough. Your support is why I get to go cover the Texans full time every day, be out there, stand out there, watch the training camp. And then I want to do it for, it's fun. And obviously not everybody can get out to a open practice if it's in the middle of the day on a Friday or whenever the other ones are. And then they're not always open to the public. So I want to be there and get the information and tell you what I see. And, I'm your eyes and ears there at those practices. So how many wins for the Texans this year? More than the Titans. How about that? I will probably go win-loss game before the season starts. Maybe we'll do that to be as a live, do a little live win-loss game. Okay. Again, you got the video chat. If you want to get in, you want to ask a question there, we'll get a couple more here in. Texans really never talk about, they just disappear like Rex Burkhead. I was glad to hear he didn't get the lifetime Texan status that Danny Amendola did a year ago. Nick Casario just threw in when Amendola retired, like, yeah, he'll always be a Texan. It's like, what? He played for like 9 teams. Oh, how about this? Amendola is a great player for Immaculate Grid. If you know what Immaculate Grid is, it's a fun game. And we'll do one live here on the show one day. I got Landry Locker hooked on it yesterday. I got Sean Pendergast hooked on it yesterday. Locker's incredible when it's Immaculate Grid for basketball. I mean, it's like watching Ken Jennings play Jeopardy. He's like, oh, this guy. And it's like an incredible number. Just Plain Dave, congrats on your new venture football question, even though it's the first day. How did Schultz look today? Just Plain Dave, thank you for the super chat. Of course, super chats get you to the front of the line. And get you to the front of the line. We'll answer your question first. Schultz looked good, man. I mean, he moves real well. I was looking at some data, and I wrote about this when we were talking about the slot wide receivers in the position battles article. Schultz is going to play out of the slot a lot. Like, he's going to line up in the slot. He did it a bunch in Dallas the past 2 seasons. George Kittle was the 3rd highest slot receiver for the 49ers last year, 3rd most reps from the slot for the 49ers last year. They're going to throw the ball to Dalton Schultz when he's lined up in the slot. So, I mean, he had a really nice, he broke past the defense. Mills overshot him once. He's a nice player. And it's quite the coup that they ended up with him, because I would not have anticipated that he would have been available to the Texans. And if he plays really well, that's a guy that you would sign in season to an extension and have him stick around. If he plays well this season. Just Plain Dave, thank you so much for the super chat. All right, couple more here, How'd the linebackers look today? Athletic. It's really good. They look really athletic is the way that I would say it. You think Beck has a better chance of making the team over Brevin Jordan to utilization at fullback? Tight end is going to be weird, because I'm going to assume Schultz and healthy Tegan Quintiriano, that's 2. The 49ers kept 4 in their initial roster last year. So it's Beck, Brevin Jordan, or is it just Beck and then he's sort of the do-it-all? I'm not sure at the tight end spot just yet. I'm not sure. I beat them in a football sim called My Football Now. I love a good simulation game. I play a baseball simulation game every night. It's super nerdy. OOTP, if you've ever heard of it. It's very fun. It's very fun. How did Tank Dell look? He's quick. He had a fumble at one point. That was not good. But the wide receivers will be fun to pay attention to here in the coming days. I'll miss my man Troy Hairston trucking people out of the backfield if he gets cut. Hey, it's not out of the question that Hairston makes the team. They signed a fullback last year And Hairston beat him out when he didn't even play fullback before. So it's not out of the question that Hairston makes the team over Beck. So yeah, it's something to pay attention to. Mechie got a lot of reps today. Yeah, Mechie got a lot of reps today. Inside, outside, versatility is there for him. So Mechie's going to be someone to pay attention to a ton before training camp gets going. Let's see. Going up against a good defense will hopefully help CJ prepare for his rookie season. Yep. Couple of good ones. Saints defense is no slouch either. Patriots for a preseason game, but no joint practices. And then the Dolphins defense here for 2 days is going to be good. Good. Jeffrey had that earlier in the live stream. Pricey, I thought he could have got more as a free agent, but it's hard to get the free agency healthy. And they've got to be really good on the offensive line. That's a short and sweet, but we can get more detailed a little bit earlier on in the stream. And we'll finish up here with EB, 11 Bravo. He went straight out to you on day one. He didn't really expect to flash, so to speak. I'll do this. I'll do 2 guys that you just, that draw your attention. 2 defensive linemen. Dylan Horton is pretty damn athletic. Okay. I think played secondary in high school, linebacker at TCU, and then played defensive end. So rookie Dylan Horton on the defensive end spot. And then Ali Gay, undrafted free agent at LSU. Big. Catches your eyes because he's a big player. Inside, outside versatility for him. And he made a play today. It would have been a sack, But Dylan Horton, Ali Gay, 2 players that, weren't those are 2 guys. Tony, where's the Houston football site? It's in the comments, it's in the description here. So you got a link in the description or www.houfootball.com. www.houfootball.com. So that'll wrap it up for the live stream today. Okay, we talked about Davis Mills versus CJ Stroud. We talked about Titus Howard's contract. We talked about the wide receiver situation, the secondary. Will Anderson won our inaugural first ever Fan Yourself award. And we took your questions. Okay, we're going to have a lot of these. There's going to be a lot of really fun content from a live stream, from a collaboration stream, from a recorded. It's going to be really fun. And I'm really excited to be doing this every day. And everybody who is here supporting, whether it's a like, a subscribe, a share, a super chat, a subscription to Houston football, a subscription with a pledge to pay for Houston football when there's paid option. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. People like you are the reason that I get to do what I do, and I can do what I do, and I can cover this team, and we can talk about the Texans on a Wednesday night in the middle of July, in the middle of late July, and have a blast doing it. So thank you. Thank you so much. Jeffrey knows. Jeffrey knows. We finish the live streams the same way each and every time. One more time for Tony Ayo, though. How buff does he look? He looks like Mr. Universe. I wish I had his same. I wish I had the same trainer he did. Jeffrey knows it, though. I've been finishing the live streams the same way each and every time. And it's my motto, kind of, but it's also my charge to you as we finish up the live stream. Eat good, sleep good, be good. We'll talk Texans again soon.